Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's been a couple of months since my last video, so I'm going to keep this one really informal. So obviously New Year's Eve was yesterday, which means today is January 1st, 2024. And I kind of feel like I should probably drop a quick update video here for you guys in case anyone is wondering where I've been all this time. And I've been around, we got really busy with Christmas and I've been busy with work and stuff like that, of course. However, I do miss doing these videos, and so I really just wanted to pop in here very quickly and talk to you guys a little bit about something that's been on my mind lately as I work through the next book in my series and hopefully a couple of new projects that I have on the back burner right now. If you're anything like me, you probably suffer from the exact same tendencies I do, which is that you feel like your book or your art or whatever it is that you create needs to be perfect before it goes out into the world. And for as long as I can remember, I've always had this very type A personality. I always feel like things have to be like ultra precise. They need to be completely clean and polished, no mistakes, no really nothing at all that I wouldn't want people to see. I'm sure many other people tend to fall into what I call the perfectionist trap. And lately I feel like I've been pretty deep in that trap and I've been having a really hard time clawing my way back out of it. And because of that, I sort of feel like the edits on the 5th book are not progressing very well. Now, I have been doing quite a few rewrites, and bear in mind this is only the second draft, so obviously there are probably going to be at least 3 or 4, maybe 5 drafts before I actually get to the point where I can publish this book. And I keep trying to remind myself of that, because I tend to get ahead of myself with things like publishing and putting books out there and stuff like that. And I know that pressure is 100% self-imposed. However, because I do treat my writing as a business, I feel like it's really important to be consistent and to be accountable when you say you're going to do something, especially for self-published authors, because there's so much pressure on us, way more pressure than there is on traditionally published authors, I think, to really present this professional image and not look like amateurs. And because of that pressure and that, I guess it's a stigma in a way. A lot of people believe that self-published books are not at the same level as traditionally published books. Because of that prevailing stigma, I find myself becoming almost fixated on writing the perfect story. And the problem with that is that I never actually move to the next project. I just end up revising and rewriting and reworking whatever I'm currently working on. And this wasn't so much a problem when I was in my 20s, but now I'm older, and I guess I've become a little bit more concerned with that public image, as it were. And especially with this 5th book right now, like I spent pretty much all of 2023 working on it, and now here we are in January of 2024. And I've officially been working on this project for 12 months, minus a few weeks that I think I took off in September or October, something like that. I have been reading more lately. I've been reading a lot more in my genre, which has been helping me sort of maintain my perspective on what is actually expected from this kind of story, like a Western/cowboy romance. And it's also helping me to sort of, I guess, narrow down my readership a little bit, because as some of you know, I don't tend to write what would be considered smut. I'm more of a closed-door romance writer, and I'm sure there's a market for that out there, so if you like that kind of stuff, like, fade to black love scenes and so on and so forth, maybe you'll check out my books. It's been very time-consuming trying to go back and to fix what I perceive, see, that's the important thing, what I personally, as the writer, and thus the harshest critic, perceive to be the flaws in the story. I think it's really important to remember that, especially when you're a creative person, because things like, art and books and movies and things that are products of the human imagination, they're always subjected to such intense scrutiny. But I think the worst critic is really the creator themselves. So, how do you get out of this trap? How do you get out of thinking that your work is garbage, it's a dumpster fire, nobody's gonna read it? I really wish I had a better answer, but I think the only answer is to just push through and to find people who will give you honest feedback about what's working and what's not working. There's always that voice in my head that says, well, this isn't good enough. I was even looking back at the first book in my series a little while ago because I was trying to find something like a little detail that was going to resonate in this 5th book, because obviously now I have this immense tapestry of details weaving along through 5 different stories that are all part of the same series, and it gets very confusing. But I was going back over a couple of chapters in book 1, and then there was that voice in my head that said, oh, you know what, you could fix this. I mean, it's good, but it's not quite good enough. And then, like I was kind of reading a little bit further on, and I was like, okay, you know what, that scene could be improved if you just did this. And I had to actually stop myself and say, okay, it's published, it's done. And now it's time to move on. So, it may seem like a very sort of imaginary or fictitious problem, but I find that it's a really hard one for me to solve and to overcome. Because I always want things to be as good as I can possibly make them. And it's hard to give myself grace and to look back at things that I've done in the past and say, hey, you know what, that was pretty good for the time. That was good based on the resources and the knowledge and the expertise I had back then. And obviously, if you're comparing your past self to your current self, there are always going to be things you don't like. In terms of when I am going to publish this book, I don't want to pick a release date yet, because as I said, I'm still in the 2nd draft, and what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to work on revising 1 or 2 chapters and taking a break for a week and then coming back to it with new eyes. So that sort of approach, that piecemeal approach to revising, is really slowing me down. And initially I had plans to publish in the spring, and I think I'm still going to aim for a spring release date. But I also don't want to corral myself into some sort of manic, stressful publishing schedule that I can't actually meet, some deadline that's just completely unachievable. I rush to publish it, and then I look back on it and I'm not happy with it, and then I have to pull it and rework it. It works for some books, but it doesn't work for others, especially because this is a series book, so it's like adding a new car to an existing train. In my mind, I keep thinking maybe May the book will be ready to go, but I don't want to give out any dates. I don't want to, as I said, pin down any particular expectation, because I want to give myself the freedom to actually let that story grow and evolve organically. I do have a little bit of not a surprise. I guess it is a surprise, but it's not a surprise because I'm working on a series. But if you're following me on Instagram, you'll see a post tomorrow morning around 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for a little something that I'm doing that I hope will sort of generate some interest and some enthusiasm around the series, just because it's been a tough year for me marketing wise. Apparently it's also a tough day for me hair wise. I don't know what's going on here. Whatever, we're leaving it. In terms of other projects, okay, so I've been okay, hang on, back up, rewind. Okay, when I was in my 20s, I was overflowing with ideas. I was like this fountain of inspiration, and I always had at least 2 or 3 projects on the go. And now I'm older and I'm more preoccupied with things that are going on in the real world, so I don't have the same kind of time that I did before to sit down and actually work on things for long periods of time. I don't know, guys. I'm all over the place. And then I have another idea that I attempted years ago, and I'm kind of revisiting it, but in a very sort of casual sense, because I actually do not know the plot. I know the characters, I know the setting, I know the main conflict, and I know just a little bit about the main character's motivation in the story. And I sort of know what message or what moral I'm aiming for here, but I really just cannot piece the plot together in any sort of meaningful way. And that's also because this is outside of my regular genre. There's always that pressure to sort of expand your horizons and to branch out into new genres. And I've really been wanting to do that too, but again, I also feel like I'm lacking the time and the resources and the tools to really do it correctly. So I kind of worry a little bit when I'm getting close to finishing a book that it's going to be my last one. And The book that I'm working on right now, which is the 5th book in my series, is starting to give me that feeling that like after this I'm done. And I'm a little bit nervous because I don't know what else to do. I don't know what I'm gonna focus on next, and that makes me just a little uneasy because I don't want to continually market the same old books over and over again. Really, the secret is to just sort of give yourself a little bit of grace. Just try to step back, don't obsess over things too much, and realize that sometimes good enough really is good enough. When you sit down and you read a book and you enjoy that book, do you really think about how much time the author spent picking out the perfect word or finagling the sentences around to kind of convey the exact emotion that they wanted you to feel? No, you probably don't devote that kind of time or thought to it. So maybe as a writer, you can just ease off on yourself a little bit too. I'm probably gonna wrap it up here. Nobody interrupted me today. As you can tell, we have not taken down any Christmas stuff. Oh my god. Okay, so that's what I have to do now, instead of sitting here dawdling, making videos. I hope everybody had a safe and maybe not happy, but maybe not miserable either New Year yesterday. And like I said, stay tuned tomorrow on Instagram and Threads for my little New Year's announcement. In the meantime, I'm gonna keep on keeping on. That's the plan this year, okay? We're not doing resolutions, we're just doing, stability. Maintaining the status quo. Alright guys, I'll see you next time. Bye.